In the annals of history, few names command as much respect and controversy as Napoleon Bonaparte. Rising from obscurity to become the Emperor of France, Napoleon's journey is one of ambition, brilliance, and unmatched military prowess. His campaigns reshaped the map of Europe, turning small skirmishes into legendary battles that would be studied for centuries. Napoleon's strategic genius was not just in his ability to win battles, but in his capacity to inspire and lead armies to victories that seemed impossible. Yet, like all great figures, his story is not just one of triumph, but also of tragic downfall. In this video, we will delve into the key battles that forged Napoleon's legacy as one of history's greatest military leaders. From his early victories that catapulted him to power, to the monumental clashes that solidified his dominance over Europe, we will explore how these battles contributed to his legendary status. We will also examine the one battle that not only broke Napoleon's streak of victories, but ultimately led to the end of his empire and his exile. Join us as we trace the rise and fall of Napoleon through the battles that defined an era. The Italian campaign of 1796 was Napoleon Bonaparte's first significant command and marked the beginning of his rise to power. At just 26 years old, Napoleon was appointed as the commander of the army. The campaign was crucial for France, as it sought to weaken the Austrian and Piedmontese forces in northern Italy, securing this strategic region for the French Republic. The Battle of Lodi, fought on May 10, 1796, was a key moment in this campaign, not just for its military significance, but for the confidence it instilled in Napoleon and his troops. The victory at Lodi was more than just a tactical success, it was a psychological triumph. The boldness of the attack and Napoleon's direct involvement in the battle earned him the loyalty of his troops and the nickname the Little Corporal, a term of endearment that reflected his willingness to share the dangers of battle with his men. The success at Lodi also marked the beginning of Napoleon's legend, as it demonstrated his ability to turn seemingly impossible situations into decisive victories. Following his successes in Italy, Napoleon set his sights on Egypt, a key strategic region that could disrupt British access to India and expand French influence in the Middle East. The Egyptian campaign of 1798 was ambitious, aiming to establish French dominance in the Mediterranean and beyond. The Battle of the Pyramids, fought on July 21, 1798, was the defining battle of this campaign, where Napoleon's military genius was once again on full display. The Battle of the Pyramids not only secured Egypt for France, but also showcased Napoleon's ability to adapt and innovate on the battlefield. The victory expanded French influence in the Middle East and demonstrated Napoleon's capacity to lead successful campaigns far from home. This battle reinforced his reputation as a world-class strategist and further solidified his position as one of Europe's leading military figures. Additionally, the Egyptian campaign, though ultimately a strategic failure in the long term, contributed to Napoleon's mystique and the sense of invincibility that surrounded him at this stage of his career. By 1800, Europe was once again engulfed in conflict, with the Second Coalition seeking to overturn the gains made by revolutionary France. Napoleon, now First Consul of France, returned to Italy to reassert French dominance. The situation in Italy was precarious, with Austrian forces reclaiming much of the territory Napoleon had previously conquered. The Battle of Marengo, fought on June 14, 1800, was crucial in determining control of Italy and, by extension, the fate of Napoleon's rule. The Battle of Marengo was a close and hard-fought victory, but its impact was profound. Napoleon's ability to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat not only secured French control over Italy but also reinforced his reputation as an unbeatable military leader. The victory at Marengo had significant political implications as well, bolstering Napoleon's position as First Consul and paving the way for his eventual declaration as Emperor of the French. The battle demonstrated Napoleon's resilience and his capacity to adapt to changing circumstances, traits that would define his military career. These early victories, Lodi, the Pyramids, and Marengo, were instrumental in establishing Napoleon as a military genius and a leader of unparalleled vision. Each battle showcased different aspects of his leadership, from daring frontal assaults to innovative tactics and the ability to turn near defeat into victory. These successes laid the foundation for Napoleon's dominance in Europe. The War of the Third Coalition was a pivotal moment in European history, where the major powers Austria, Russia, and Britain united against Napoleon's expanding influence. The Battle of Austerlitz, fought on December 2, 1805, was the culmination of Napoleon's campaign against this coalition. The battle was significant not only for its scale, but for the stakes involved: control of Central Europe and the future of Napoleon's empire. Napoleon's strategic brilliance was on full display at Austerlitz. He intentionally weakened his right flank, luring the Austro-Russian forces into attacking what they perceived as a vulnerable position. As the coalition forces advanced, Napoleon launched a decisive counterattack on the weakened center of their line, exploiting the fog of war and the disorganized enemy ranks. The French troops, highly disciplined and expertly maneuvered, quickly broke through the coalition's center, cutting off and encircling large portions of the Austro-Russian army. The result was a catastrophic defeat for the coalition, with thousands of their troops killed, captured, or forced to retreat. The Battle of Austerlitz is widely regarded as Napoleon's greatest military achievement. The victory not only dismantled the Third Coalition but also solidified Napoleon's dominance in Europe. The battle demonstrated his ability to outthink and outmaneuver larger forces, earning him unparalleled prestige. The subsequent Treaty of Pressburg further expanded French territories and influence, marking the height of Napoleon's power and establishing him as the master of Europe. Following the collapse of the Third Coalition, Prussia, feeling threatened by Napoleon's growing influence, joined forces with Russia and Britain to form the Fourth Coalition. The Prussian army, confident in its strength and traditions, posed a significant threat to Napoleon's ambitions. The battles of Jena and Austerlitz, fought on October 14, 1806, were crucial in determining whether Napoleon could continue his dominance in Central Europe. The defeat at Jena-Austerlitz shattered Prussia's military reputation and led to the rapid collapse of its kingdom. Napoleon's forces swiftly occupied Prussian territories, effectively neutralizing them as a threat in Central Europe. The victory further solidified Napoleon's control over the continent, demonstrating the superiority of his military strategies and the effectiveness of his marshals. The consequences for Prussia were severe, leading to significant territorial losses and the imposition of harsh terms by Napoleon, which would reshape the political landscape of Europe for years to come. Despite the crushing defeat of Prussia, the conflict between France and Russia continued, with both powers vying for dominance in Europe. The Battle of Friedland, fought on June 14, 1807, was the decisive confrontation that would determine the outcome of the war between France and the Fourth Coalition. This battle was strategically critical for Napoleon, as it provided an opportunity to force the Russians into a peace settlement. The decisive victory at Friedland forced Tsar Alexander I of Russia to seek peace, leading to the signing of the Treaty of Tilsit. This treaty marked the peak of Napoleon's influence over Europe, as it resulted in the creation of new client states under French control and effectively made Russia a reluctant ally. The victory at Friedland confirmed Napoleon's dominance over the continent, as he now held sway over the majority of Europe's major powers. These battles, Austerlitz, Jena-Austerlitz, and Friedland, represent the pinnacle of Napoleon's military career. Each victory showcased different aspects of his strategic genius, from the masterful deception at Austerlitz to the rapid and decisive actions at Jena-Austerlitz and the calculated destruction of Russian forces at Friedland. By 1812, Napoleon had established himself as the master of Europe, with only a few nations still resisting his influence. However, tensions between France and Russia had been escalating, particularly over the continental system, a blockade designed to cripple Britain's economy by banning trade with the British. Napoleon believed that a quick and decisive victory would bring Russia back into the fold and secure his dominance over Europe. However, the risks were immense. The vastness of Russia, the harsh climate, and the logistical challenges of sustaining a large army in such a hostile environment posed significant threats to the success of the campaign. On September 7, 1812, Napoleon's forces finally engaged the Russian army in a pitched battle near the village of Borodino, just 70 miles west of Moscow. The Battle of Borodino was one of the bloodiest single-day engagements of the Napoleonic Wars, with both sides suffering massive casualties. Napoleon, eager for a decisive victory, launched repeated frontal assaults against the well-fortified Russian positions. Although the French eventually forced the Russians to withdraw, the victory was Pyrrhic. Napoleon's forces were too weakened by the heavy losses to pursue and destroy the Russian army, and the road to Moscow lay open, but at a tremendous cost. Despite capturing Moscow a week later, Napoleon found the city largely abandoned and set ablaze by the retreating Russians. The French had expected to find shelter and supplies, but instead found a burned-out shell of a city, offering little respite for the exhausted troops. With Moscow in ruins and Alexander refusing to negotiate, Napoleon was left with no choice but to order retreat in October 1812. The decision to retreat from Moscow marked the beginning of a catastrophic withdrawal that would decimate the Grand Army and shatter Napoleon's image as an invincible leader. The retreat from Moscow was a harrowing experience for Napoleon's forces. As they retraced their steps through the devastated Russian landscape, they faced constant harassment from Russian forces and partisans. The crossing of the Berezina River in late November became a symbol of the campaign's disastrous end. With Russian forces closing in, Napoleon's army attempted to cross the icy river on makeshift bridges. Thousands of soldiers drowned or were killed in the chaotic crossing. The failed invasion of Russia was a turning point in Napoleon's career. The loss of so many experienced soldiers and the devastation of his army left France weakened and vulnerable. The invasion of Russia, intended to secure Napoleon's dominance over Europe, instead led to his downfall. After the disastrous retreat from Russia in 1812 and subsequent defeats in 1813, Napoleon's empire began to unravel. By 1814, Paris had fallen, and Napoleon was forced to abdicate, being exiled to the island of Elba. However, Napoleon's ambitions were far from extinguished. In March 1815, he escaped from Elba and returned to France, initiating the period known as the 100 Days. His return was met with widespread support from the French army and public, leading to his rapid restoration to power. But Napoleon's resurgence alarmed the rest of Europe, prompting the formation of the Seventh Coalition. This alliance, comprising Britain, Prussia, Austria, Russia, and several smaller states, was determined to crush Napoleon once and for all. The coalition forces began to mobilize, and it became clear that the final showdown would take place in Belgium, at a small village called Waterloo. The Battle of Waterloo, fought on June 18, 1815, was Napoleon's final and most famous battle, where he aimed to defeat the Allied forces before they could unite. Despite initial success in dividing the Allies and a strong start to the battle, Napoleon's forces were ultimately overwhelmed due to critical missteps, including premature cavalry charges and underestimating the Prussian reinforcements. The arrival of the Prussian army turned the tide against Napoleon, leading to the collapse of his forces and marking the definitive end of his military career. The defeat at Waterloo was decisive and catastrophic for Napoleon. Realizing the battle was lost, Napoleon fled the battlefield and returned to Paris, attempting to muster political support to continue the war. However, the French government and military leaders saw the futility in resisting the advancing coalition forces. On June 22, 1815, Napoleon was forced to abdicate for the second time, ending his brief return to power. Following his abdication, Napoleon hoped to escape to the United States, but he was intercepted by British forces. He surrendered to the British and was exiled to St. Helena, a remote island of the South Atlantic Ocean. This time, there would be no escape. Napoleon spent the remaining 6 years of his life in exile in St. Helena, where he died in 1821. The Battle of Waterloo marked the end of an era in the remarkable rise and fall of Napoleon Bonaparte. From his early victories that made him a legend to the catastrophic defeat in Russia that marked the beginning of his downfall, Napoleon's military genius and ambition left an indelible mark on history. Waterloo, the battle that ended his reign, serves as a reminder of the limits of power and the inevitability of fate. Napoleon's legacy is one of extraordinary achievements and profound consequences. His influence on military strategy, politics, and society is still felt today. The story of Napoleon's battles is not just a tale of conquest and defeat, but a reflection on the ambitions, triumphs, and tragedies that define human history. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on more historical explorations.